Right, so I come from a very different background to probably a lot of people here. I wasn't creative, never came from a creative background. In 2008, I'd worked for 20 years in fashion and retail, and much more on the business commercial side of it. So buying, merchandising, logistics, opening stores, all that lovely stuff that goes into putting clothes into shops. And I'd reached the level of commercial director. 5 years prior, I'd started to work with a private equity investor. And we were going to own and manage small, tiny, niche, lovely brands, and we'd decide what that brand needed to get to the next level. He would do the investment, I would create the plan, I would implement the plan. So for 5 years, I'd carved out my ideal job. So I'd done all the grunt work of 15 years in the retail corporate world, and I'd gone on to something a lot more niche, which I loved. I hadn't bargained for 2008 and that horrible word, the recession. So in 2008, January 2008, the investor pulled out of all retail and fashion, and I was unemployed. So I did what everyone does when they lose a job or when they're looking for a new job. I went to all my contacts in buying and merchandising and retail, and I started to look for a job. 18 months later, still no work, still no job, and I'd gone down all the levels from director all the way down. I was like, right, you know, this is something's not happening here. Something's got to change. So after my 150 prospective chats with an agency, I said, no more, I'm not doing it. My next phone call was to my landlord, and I handed in my notice in my London flat, which I was gutted about, and I moved out to Teddington, to the burbs. And the reason for that was I needed a bit of breathing space, I needed to reduce my rent, and I needed to rethink what I was going to do. And I just had a feeling it wasn't going to be in retail and fashion anymore. So I never realised what that change was going to do, but that change was huge. I couldn't get my sofa from my old place into my new place. So I sent it off to a house clearance, sold it for peanuts, and gutted. I loved that sofa. I should have kept it and reupholstered it, but I didn't know then. Upholstery wasn't on my radar. I'd never had anything restored. I didn't really know what an upholstery did. I assumed it was all men, and I thought they worked in dirty little workshops, and it was all about the top cover. And I never considered what I actually sat on before. Although I'd never bought anything new, so I was a bit of a vintage girl, and I'd never bought any new furniture. I'd go into a shop and I thought, I don't like it, and everyone's going to have it, and I'd just walk out again and would never buy a sofa. So I always had sort of vintage finds, eclectic stuff from charity shops, hand-me-down furniture that was too good to throw away, like the leather sofa that I gave away for a song. And I went onto eBay and I'd moved into a 60s build, so I bought a Guy Rogers daybed. Never heard of Guy Rogers before that, had never shown any interest in furniture design, but it was lovely. So I drove to Essex, picked it up, wrecked, sofa, foam gone to dust, horrible original fabric on it, but it just had potential, and it was like, oh, great, okay. So I went and found the velvet fabric, I went and found the male upholsterer, because that's what I thought you did, and there were no female upholsterers around me at the time, and off I went, and a week later it came back to me, beautifully restored, new foam, and my velvet fabric on it, and I loved it, and I thought, right, I'll do this again. So I bought a table and some G-plan chairs, same again, came back, I thought, God, I love this. Right, I'm going to be an upholsterer. How hard is that going to be? All you have to do is put fabric on chairs. I really, really just thought, and I thought, no, just something in me, and it just, this little seed of an idea was just bubbling and bubbling and bubbling. So I looked for upholstery courses, and the recession bit me on the bum again, because there weren't any locally, because they closed down, because I was told lack of funding, lack of interest, but I was really interested, I really wanted to do it. So there was 2 courses, one in Kendal and one in Cornwall, that did intensive AMU courses. They're both for 6 hours away, so I went for Kendal because it let me pay per week. So if I absolutely hated it on week 1, I could just walk away from it and pretend it never happened, and I wouldn't have spent thousands of pounds. I didn't hate it after week 1. On the Friday, I could barely walk. I was broken. I stood up all day. I'd stripped stuff. I was like, God, it's filthy, it's dusty. I was working in a pig shed, because it was a converted pig shed. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I went back, and I went back, and I went back, and I went back, and I finished the course. Clearly, I thought when I started it, I'll be an upholsterer when I've done the AMU course, because it teaches you everything. Anyway, I got to the end of the course, and I wasn't an upholsterer. So I went to try and find a new course. The next course I found was the CAS, where I met Hannah and Jude. And they didn't do an intensive course, so every Thursday I begged beforehand. I found out Malcolm Hopkins ran it, and I just broke him down. I said, let me join your really full course. And he did. He let me join a really full course on a Thursday. And every Thursday, trotted up to Aldgate with my furniture, and I think I did 2 chairs in a year, and in a school year. And it's like, right, okay, but I learnt so much, because the attention to detail at CAS is amazing. So I learnt so much, met some great people, wasn't having to drive to Kendal every week. And again, I still didn't feel like I was ready to go out there and be an upholsterer. So I found another course in London, and it was a leisure course. There was nothing leisurely about this course whatsoever. And I went every week with all the chairs that I'd accumulated. There's probably students here that every time they see a chair, they can't walk past it and they pick it up. Yeah, that was me. I had a garage full of chairs. So I thought, right, I'll get rid of them. I'll do them up, and I'll sell them on eBay, and that funded the course. So I did that for another about 6 months, and I gave myself to the end of that year. I thought, December, I will finish this, I will stop hiding behind tutors, and I'll get out there and I'll try and make this pay. In the meantime, I'd got a job at a pub, and I worked on Friday and Saturday night, because I'd gone from having this job that was really social, and I missed the social element of training to be an upholsterer. So I got a job on a Friday and Saturday night, and I told anyone who would listen that I was training to be an upholsterer. And I was whipping out my phone, back pocket, look at this chair, this is what I've done, what have you done this week? I just talked upholstery. And the landlady of that pub, because when I finished in that December, I didn't have a workspace, and she said, I will clear the beer shed, I'll clear some barrels, and we can set up your workbench, and you can work there. So January 2013, with £600, I bought a compressor, I bought some sundries, I knocked up that dodgy old logo, and I got some business cards done, and I started. And I got a friend, I did a trade swap with someone, he wanted some cushions, so I did some cushions for him, he knocked up a holding page on the internet for me, so that if anyone wanted to contact me, there was my phone number and my email address. So professional, not. So anyway, that's how I started, January 2013, in that beer shed, corrugated roof with holes in, 1 light bulb, no heating. I was like the Michelin woman, covered in layers and layers. But that pub and that beer shed, it was like I was rebuilding these chairs, but actually Upholstery had rebuilt me. It was just unreal, and I just felt like I had purpose again. I was really doing something, and I didn't give a toss about my old life or my old job. I was doing something, and it had value, it had real value, and people were looking at it and really appreciating it. I was putting my work on, so the people in the pub, they became my first customers, lovely people, and they spread the word locally, and I started to get work. Nervously started to get work, but I didn't care. If it took me a month to do a chair, I did the chair, and I was not hiding behind a tutor anymore, and if I came across a problem, I had to fix it. There was no one to ask. And 9 times out of 10, I didn't come across that problem again, because I'd learned how to do it. So it was a real massive learning curve. Looking back on it, I think it was probably quite bold, but anyway, I did it, and I haven't looked back. I was on Twitter at the time as well, because I didn't really like Facebook. Instagram didn't exist, can you believe it? And I was tweeting before and after pictures, and I started to get work locally from that as well, hashtagging my local area. And I spent a year in that beer shed, freezing, and I found my own studio in 2014. I went in, I painted the walls, Farrow and Ball, I was all like, yeah, this is my place. I had candles, I had music, I had light, I had 3 light bulbs, it was amazing. Such a step up. And I worked like that I'm still in that same studio, and I worked like that for 4 years. So Monday to Saturday, every day I worked in the workshop. And then on Sundays I would do social media. So I set up a Facebook page, I set up an Instagram page, and every week I would do a post about what I'd worked on, tell a bit of the story about the chair, the fabric, the customer, whatever it may be. And people started to ask me to do work, and it just came and came and came, and suddenly I started to get a wait list, and it was really, 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 it happened really quickly actually when I look back on it. Back last year, I hated my logo and I hated my website, so I decided it was time to change. And I was in the stage now where I wasn't working 6 days a week, 1 day a week doing admin and posting on social media. I was starting to find a bit of a work-life balance. And I thought I'm going to start Project V, because you've got to name something a project, and I thought Project V was going to be my rebranding. So I found a photographer, I found a branding expert, I found a 4 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 she produced it with my ideas, which way? Vintique, my new logo. So it felt like my old logo had really, I'd moved well away from it. Again, it was a sort of thing I'd knocked up on the internet, and this one, to elevate my brand and move forward, I knew I needed a proper professional website, I needed proper photography, proper images of my work, and a proper logo, proper branding. So the V, I wanted a really strong V, and the ravaged fabric, it shows the ripped, how it comes into my workshop normally, and then it moves along into a more finished, polished product with an upholstery stud in the top corner. And the colour, the background colour, I don't know if you can see it, but it's a teal. And teal comes from the duck family, the common teal, and they're a grey duck, but they've got teal around their eyes. So for me, that was sort of forward-thinking direction and vision. So that's how I came up with the logo. Then I decided I needed to really showcase what you do with a real upholstery. So I found the most wrecked pieces of furniture I possibly could. I got that for 50 quid. An old Chesterfield, it needed everything, as you can see. And I also had moved house again, so I needed to fill my house with furniture, so it was really quite handy, this project fee, because I needed furniture. So all the furniture that's on my website is actually now in my house, so I went mad. I went mad with fabric, I went mad with colour, and actually that's what I'm about anyway, so it all made sense. It all made perfect sense. So that's the arm. So that's the Irish linen fabric from a small little brand in Ireland, in Londonderry, that they depict nature and they put it onto beautiful Irish linen fabric. I'm half Irish, it made sense to me. And then that's an old chaise, an old French chaise, Ellie Kishimoto Peg Art Roses. And again, that's my little dog. I also got a little studio dog, because you've got a studio, you've got to have a little studio dog. So I rescued Ruby last year from Romania. And that's the shot. So I also got a location house. How fancy was that? I got a location house and actually took pictures, because my house wasn't that fancy and it didn't have great light. So it was really good to work with these people. And as you can see, the finished furniture and the new website, that's my lead image on my new website with my logo and everything on it. So it really I wanted to really showcase what you could do with really broken, battered furniture that people probably just would throw away and think didn't have any more life. That actually, with the right fabric and re-upholstered, so I changed the design on the sofas and the chairs as well. You probably recognise Kitty McCall's fabric there in the corner on the chair. She's a great fabric designer. And then that's the Kirkby Cloud. It's a textured velvet that came out at the time. It's like working with a carpet, but it's brilliant, really, really good. It's really easy to work with actually, but it was a bit unusual at the time, and it's worn beautifully, so I love it. So it was really nice to actually put myself out there and actually have a brand and an image that actually reflected what I was doing, as opposed to me working in the beer shed with my knocked up logo. So going back a bit, so I think the recession really, for me, it was devastating at the time, but actually it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I really think as well it was the best thing that ever happened to the industry, because people started to look at what they had in a very different way, and instead of just throwing it away and buying new, people started to, a little bit into your recycling and how you think about things going forward, people started to see the value in what they really had already. And 80% of my work is furniture from people they've lost their grandmother, or they remember their mother, they remember sitting in it. It's all nostalgic, sentimental pieces, 80% of my work. The other 20 is like modern sofas, things like that people go, do you know what, we spent a fortune on our sofas, but we picked the wrong fabric. And that's music to my ears when they say that, because I have to recover it, which is brilliant. So I just think that Recession has brought some really good things out. And 10 years ago, Instagram didn't exist. I didn't know anyone who was training to be an upholsterer. When I said I wanted to be an upholsterer, there was literally tumbleweeds. I think people thought it was a bit of a fad and I'd get bored of it, but I haven't got bored of it. And every day, A, I'm grateful for that recession, and B, I'm grateful to Malcolm Hopkins, who let me join that bloody course that was full. And I'm really grateful that I've actually got a skill that now, whatever happens in the world, I'll never be unemployed ever again. And that's me.
Any questions for Sharon? When do you sleep?
I've got a better work-life balance now, definitely. The business is 5 years old now, and a year ago I took someone on, so I've got help, which is brilliant, and I've got someone who tears down the furniture for me as well. It's the best thing I ever did. I know. I had to tear down a chaise a couple of weeks ago and he broke me. So yeah, there's a work-life balance now, but for the first 4 years there wasn't. And when I was training as well, there were no holidays. It was nothing. So on my 5th birthday in January, I went to Costa Rica. That was my first holiday in 8 years. So yeah.
So where do you think you'll be in another 10 years' time?
Well, actually, since I've rebranded, so I launched the new website and logo in December, I've started to work with influencers. So I'm starting to get approached by people now that I probably wouldn't have approached me if I looked at my old website and old logo. And it's really...
influencer, can you just...
So people on Instagram who have a huge following. So for me, so there's a whole sort of influence. Does it really matter? Does it not really matter? But the people I'm working with are huge interior designers, authors, interior journalists, whatever, that whole field. So I will talk to anyone about upholstery, as you know.
And they found you through...
They found me through Instagram, yeah.
They came to you.
When I launched my business, when I launched my new website, the inquiries went through the roof.
Right.
So because I think finally it was something that people understood. My old website it didn't didn't fit. And I've been on the radio clearly with you guys, and before that with Joe Good as well, because I'll talk to anyone who rings. So I listened to Joe Good on BBC Radio London in the afternoon when I'm in my workshop, and she did think about what is a predominantly male trade that a woman does now. So I rang in, I said, me, I'm an upholsterer, predominantly male trade. And she asked me to do a chair for her. So I did a chair for her, and she invited me on the programme. So it's like there's little opportunities like that you just grab and you take and you go with. And a TV company's contacted me, and I hopefully maybe be on a programme in the next few months. So it's about championing the world and the craft of upholstery. So I'll talk to anyone about it if it gets
I think
out there.
that's really interesting as well. You're saying, grab any opportunity.
Absolutely.
No matter how absolutely terrifying it might seem at the time.
I used to cut top fabric with my hand shaking, and then that's how I used to be. Everyone has that. Everyone has that fear. Everyone doesn't feel like they're ready, doesn't have the confidence. But actually, the customer doesn't see what goes on in the workshop. Don't worry about it. They just see the finished product. And we do get fixed on the sort of upholsterer's eye, the little details that we see that we think, oh God, they don't see it. They don't see it. So talk to everyone and anyone, and bang the drum for upholstery as much as possible.
How should you go about approaching those kind of people? Because obviously that's something I need to do in my business as well.
Approaching.
So these influencers,
they've come to me through social media, so I haven't had to do the contacting, luckily. But if I was going to swap it, I would just direct message anyone who I liked their style. So I wouldn't just work with anyone. I have to like their style. And I would contact them and just say, I'd really want to work with you. And everyone is up for collaborating at the moment, everybody, so grab it. 10 years ago, 5 years when I first started, you didn't do it. You didn't operate like that. You had to go through a PR company. You don't have to do that anymore. Instagram, direct messages, Facebook, direct message, whatever it is, that's what works. It's much more instant.
So what do you think about your use of social media made them sit up and take notice of you?
Because it's personal. So my page, in my feed is a lot, it's not just chair, there's a lot of chairs, not just chair. There's also about me, how I became an upholsterer, what I do. So it's about the face behind the brand as well. They have to like you to want to work with you. That's really important. And I do have people that have gone, obviously I'm in a very competitive market. I'm in a great catchment in terms of where I live in Sunbury-on-Thames, Richmond, Hampden. There's a great postcode, but there are other upholsterers there. But what they like is the fact that I tell a story, I think what they like anyway, is that I tell a story about that chair, that product, that customer. And I think that's why they want to work with me, because they want to create stories out of their furniture to hand down as well. So I do think your brand and your social media has to also be about you, otherwise it's just anonymous and impersonal. So thank God for social media.
Was it hard finding a designer to work with? Because I imagine you had to get quite personal with them to get the true kind of essence of your brand or who you are out.
Yeah, and I went to a local networking meeting for small businesses, and I happened to sit next to a girl who did branding. And I just had another logo done beforehand, and I hated it. And I said, oh God, she went. We just started talking. I said, what do you do? She said, oh, I do branding. I listened. I said, oh, branding. It's much more than a logo. It's much more than a logo. And she was talking my language, so we started to work together, and it was easy. It was really easy with her. Whereas before, I found it wasn't easy. It was a struggle. It was a bit of a battle of wills, and it just. So yeah, I think when you're working with other creative people, you feel it in here, and then you know they know you understand, yeah, and they get it, and then they produce something brilliant that they're also, she's equally as proud of it as I am, and that's brilliant, and that's the way it's got to be. And same with the website designer. I spent a year looking for a website designer, and I found really techie, codey people, but I didn't find anyone who was quite creative enough. Then I found an ex-graphic designer who designed websites, and do you know what? It's perfect. It's exactly what I needed. So when I was talking about colours, she wasn't getting the hump with me. She was like, she understood colour mattered.
So you have kind of your history is in business. Did you have a plan? Did you sort of start and say, okay?
No.
Okay.
No, I didn't because what happened when I lost my job? That was a massive shock. Yeah. So it literally it stopped overnight, and I was I wasn't anticipating that. So I've never sat down. I've never written a business plan. The business has grown year on year, nice and steadily. No, and I don't think I'll ever. I think if
you need to now, you don't feel.
No,
like
I think if I start writing a plan, I stop doing the work.
Yeah.
I need to just create every week. Every week is a different plan for me, and it's just I've got to keep moving and moving and moving forward. If I get so bogged down in writing a business plan for a month, I haven't been working for a month, and it just distracts me. For me, my plan very much is about social media, but the other side of it, now I've got a great website, I've got to get my head around Google ads, Facebook ads. It's about finding the target customer that wouldn't necessarily know I exist, so getting into their feeds and getting onto their phones. So that's a plan. That's a plan. Yeah.
How much did your previous work though influence? So you were maybe on the business and marketing.
I think it's definitely helped. I didn't think I was creative before, but obviously I was in a creative environment, so obviously it was getting in. So obviously I did have an eye for colour that I'd never used before. So I think I was more creative than I thought. And definitely working on the business side, I do my own accounts, I know what works, I know what I should be buying things for, I know what I should be selling things for. It helped with my pricing. And pricing, I mean, I don't know if you touched on this at the beginning. I mean, how I started off with pricing was I rang all the local upholsterers and I asked them how much it was to do a wing chair, and I went higher. And that's it. That's all I did. And that's how I started. I just would like ask other people, and I was shocked how cheap some people were. A wing chair for £150, and from frame up. I just said there's no way they can make money, so I'd never wanted to be on that sort of fast turnaround, cheap side of it. I wanted to be at the higher end. So yeah, that's how I worked out my pricing. I got a bit of a benchmark, and then worked it out myself from there.
Can I do it first? When you talk about pricing,
Yeah.
I don't know upholstery, but I'm considering doing that. I've done various courses. One of the things I did, the first chair I did took me half a day to strip down from. This is hard. I didn't realise. The second chair took me, it was parking on. It was really, really well.
Oh, I know.
It took me like 3 days.
Yeah.
And I actually thought there and then, if I'm going to start a business and somebody comes to me with a chair, how do I say, well, it might take me half a day, it might take me 3 days to strip this down. So it could cost you anything anywhere between this and this.
Yeah. That's why a lot of people told me that I needed to charge per hour, and I thought, well, if I charge per hour, it's going to cost a bloody fortune, and I will never get any work. So that's why I rang other upholsterers and found out what they were charging in my area, and that's why I used that as a benchmark. But you do get faster. So yes, clearly a wing chair would have probably taken me 2 weeks when I first started, but it doesn't take me 2 weeks anymore. So you do get faster and faster and faster. There's a lot of upholstery. I mean, there's probably a lot of people here on the upholstery forums, and it's all about people get very, very. I think Gareth's on it. Is he here? There's a Gareth. Yeah. But with the upholstery forums on Facebook, they get quite edgy about price and things, and everyone's saying how many hours, how many price. And the biggest thing when I was training was like, how am I ever going to make money from this? Because I don't know how much to charge, and I'm too slow. And if I do £20 an hour, £50 an hour, what am I per hour? So that I threw that out because it was every job was different. So I decided to just use my local area as a benchmark and work it from there, and it's worked. That side of it's worked. So sorry, did I get?
Don't just say no to people.
No, never say that. I never say no to a job. No, unless if they want to beat me down on price, then I'll definitely say no, because there's plenty more work where that came from. So I don't need to worry. But I never negotiate. I never do a cash price. I never do anything like that. The price is the price is the price. Has to be.
Value return.
Sorry?
Valuing yourself.
Yeah, exactly, because I do, this is my job, this is how I earn money, this is how I pay my rent, this is how I feed my dog. So yeah, it is, there's no one else supporting me, so it has to be, I'm the sole income, so it has to be me that makes it pay. So if I was undervaluing myself and working too cheap, I'd hate what I was doing every day, and I wouldn't have any money. So that's important to have. I'd lost a lifestyle. I needed to create a new lifestyle with my new job and my new career. So you can't be too cheap. Thank you very much.